Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Cycle 5858. I am Amish Cycle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please let's go to the headlines.
Hi everyone, and thank you so much for streaming with us. I'm Stephanie Ramos. Welcome to ABC News Live Weekend. Let's take a look at your top headlines. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth delivering fiery remarks to hundreds of generals and admirals in Virginia. Hegseth outlining changes to military policy that include raising physical standards for combat positions to quote, male levels, as well as toughening grooming standards and doing away with diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. The secretary also calling for an end to, quote, woke culture in the military. A 20-story building here in New York City partially collapsed. Officials believe a gas explosion from the boiler caused the chimney to come crumbling down. Crews sifted through the debris with canines. Thankfully, no one was trapped in the rubble. And if you want to keep your memories on Snapchat, yes, because Snapchat is still around, you may soon have to start paying. The social media platform now facing backlash as the company says users who want to store more than 5 gigabytes of memories will now need to pay $1.99 a month and up to $3.99 a month for even more storage. For those already past the limit, the company is giving a 12-month grace period, and if you don't want to pay the $1.99 or the $3.99, you can still save your memories to your device's camera roll. Turning now to our top story, a company based overseas has a solution to make sure what we recycle actually gets recycled, and it's already being used by some big companies. ABC's Maggie Ruley gives us an inside look from the Netherlands.
Inside this warehouse, our trash is going on a journey that could help dig humanity out of a man-made crisis.
This is pure trash. This is food, dirty diapers, some plastics, paper, whatever you can imagine.
80% organic between paper.
Quick for an informative interactive news program. What's the difference? It's fun.
Oh, you didn't say that, did you?
It's a surprise!
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend on ABC's Britain's News Channel. Good morning. Get me there to Knock Talks Tough on illegal immigration.
The Conservative leader vows to deport 150,000 illegal migrants a year and pull Britain out of the ECHR.
And of course this comes as the Tory conference kicks off in Manchester today. And Kemi Badenoch has revealed a 7-point plan to secure Britain's borders, including Trump-style ICE immigration squads.
But new polling finds voters have less faith in the Tories to end illegal channel crossings than both Reform and Labour. So is it all too little too late for the Conservative Party?
Nearly 500 people were arrested at a pro-Palestine rally in central London after defying calls to cancel their protests in the wake, of course, of the Manchester synagogue terror attack.
And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he hopes to announce hostages' release in days and vows that Hamas will be disarmed. So does that make President Trump a peacemaker for the Middle East?
China, where men shed tears, is here. All servicemen are part of that huge group, and you never let it go.
Thousands of bikers roar to the National Memorial Arboretum in a powerful ride to the wall, they're calling it, a tribute to Britain's fallen heroes.
Well, fans are reeling after Skinner's performance last night as couples face their first elimination on Strictly Come Dancing.
Not really. Joined by former Strictly professional AJ Pritchard to hear the latest.
And Prince William says he's deeply proud of the Earthshot Prize finalists announced ahead of this year's awards in Rio de Janeiro. So this morning we're asking, have the Royals done more for the environment than politicians?
They were written off just a few weeks ago, but Arsenal now occupy top spot in the Premier League as Liverpool lost late on against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. And in F1, George Russell of Britain is on pole in the heat of the Singapore Grand Prix.
Storm Amy is now easing, but will we see any more storms in the week ahead? Find out in your full forecast coming up.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Anna Diamond.
And I'm Charlie Peters, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Welcome back, America. So Ted Cruz, we've established that the government as exists today wasn't intended by the framers of the Constitution. There's nothing we can find that would suggest otherwise. Well, we've come a long way from that. In other words, now the debate is whether a continuing resolution, which is just supposed to be a little bridge between spending bills while Congress finishes their appropriation bills, should be used to completely blow up the budget, further blow up the debt, $1.5 trillion, hundreds of billions of dollars for illegal aliens in healthcare, even though the Democrats are lying about that. They have no compunction about any compliance with the Constitution whatsoever, do they? Or any rational fiscal position, for that matter.
Yeah, look, you're absolutely right. The reason we're here with this shutdown is a different constitutional principle, which is that the executive branch cannot spend money that Congress has not appropriated. Congress has the power of the purse. On September 30th, it was the end of the fiscal year, and so at midnight September 30th, Congress's appropriations expired, and the question is Congress going to appropriate more funds to keep the federal government running? Now, shutdown is a misnomer. About 82-83% of the federal government continues. Everything that is deemed essential continues regardless. So the military continues, law enforcement continues, Border Patrol and ICE continues, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all of that continues, VA benefits continues. But things that are deemed non-essential, things like national parks, things like the Smithsonian Museum, things like cancer research at the National Institutes of Health, all of those have shut down because the Democrats have decided to filibuster funding for the government. And why are they forcing a government shutdown? The principal reason is they want free health care for illegal aliens. This is where the Democrat Party has decided to go. Now, that is wildly unpopular with the American people. We all remember every Democrat on the debate stage raising their hand saying, we support free health care at taxpayer expense for every illegal alien in America. That's why we're having a shutdown. But at the same time, Mark, that's actually not why we're having the shutdown. The real reason we're having the shutdown is Chuck Schumer is in a political crisis. A couple of months ago, he agreed to allow the government to stay open, and his left-wing base got furious with him. He is looking over his left shoulder, terrified that AOC is going to primary him. And so this is a temper tantrum. This is Chuck Schumer and the Democrats saying, we hate Donald Trump, and we hate Donald Trump so much, we are going to shut the government down. The government will reopen when Schumer's temper tantrum ends, but this is pure political theater trying to guard his left base.
You know, I spoke to Newt Gingrich earlier, and I talked to a couple of your colleagues, so they've reached out to me, and they said they are a little concerned about some weakening in sort of the middle part of the Republican Party, where you have a few
Saturday night, holding out hope for peace. Renewed optimism after Israel and Hamas warm up Trump's peace plan for Gaza. But it won't take much to derail this fragile proposal.
The parties are not really singing from the same song.
Ukraine under fire. The attacks from Russian drones on vital infrastructure. As potential sightings all over Europe raise concerns. Plus, game day for the Jays. The playoff excitement in Toronto as they take on the Yankees. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Israel has reportedly halted its offensive to capture Gaza City a day after Hamas issued a surprisingly positive response to Donald.
Tonight, President Trump warns Hamas, move quickly on his peace deal with Israel, or else. Nearly 2 years after its attack, Hamas now
to release all hostages, alive and dead. The guns in Gaza, mostly silent.
Big day. We'll see how it all.
I'm on hope.
Developing the president for peace.
Also tonight, shutdown standoff. Lawmakers leave Washington showing no signs of compromise. In San Francisco, Alcatraz closes, then opens.
Welcome to Alcatraz.
While Fleet Week there flies ahead with Canada's snowbirds, but not the Blue Angels. Oregon, pressure.
I met a membership in Portland where the city is bracing for the arrival of the National Guard.
Plus, Hot-tober.
Minneapolis hotter than Miami? I'm meteorologist Andrew Kozak with a look at the record warmth this first weekend of fall.
And later, it's Taylor time. Her new album, smashing records.
Swifties rushed to theaters this weekend and crushed Spotify. I'll be out in New York with details on the fan frenzy. This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
Tonight on PBS News Weekend, Israeli bombing of Gaza eases as President Trump warns Hamas that if they don't quickly agree to his peace plan, all bets are off. Then, as long COVID continues to affect millions of Americans, what researchers and patient advocates say needs to be done about it. And from northern Spain, the uncertain future of the most expensive cheese ever sold at auction.
What can you do? You think maybe the world's going to end if you don't make your cheese, but it will go on. Still, it's something you say to yourself, and then if I stop, there's no more.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. First look at what's on the front pages as they come into us. In the next half hour, we'll see what's making the headlines with the journalist Benjamin Busworth and the broadcaster and psychotherapist Lucy Beresford. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now. Well, the Sunday Express looks at Conservative plans that would see a Trump-style immigration enforcement body launched in Britain with the aim of deporting 150,000 people a year. The Sunday Telegraph also has that deportation promise as its main story. The Observer ponders what role former Prime Minister Sir Tony Blair might play, having been announced as a member of the proposed transitional authority in Gaza. The Sunday Mirror speaks to survivors of previous terror attacks as they voice their support for victims of this week's attack on a synagogue in Manchester, for whom a minute's silence was held at Old Trafford today. The Sun on Sunday alleges that the partner of the former Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, has been making use of a taxpayer-funded car. In response, a spokesperson for Ms. Rayner has told Sky News that her partner, Sam Tarry, was helping with transferring a small number of her possessions into the vehicle for safekeeping. The Mail on Sunday also carries the same allegation. And the Sunday People hears that a number of celebrities, including Sir Michael Caine and Dame Joanna Lumley, have backed a ban on trophy hunting. With me tonight, Benjamin Butterworth and Lucy Beresford. Welcome to you both. Let's start with the Middle East, front page of the Sunday Times, and the announcements and communications from Benjamin Netanyahu this evening, of which he is saying that he's called off his country's offensive in Gaza and the hostages will be free in days. Benjamin.
Yeah, so this is the impending peace deal that was
State of the News live from Berlin. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he hopes to soon announce the release of all remaining hostages from Gaza as Israeli and US delegations head to Egypt for indirect talks with Hamas. But the hostages' families remain skeptical. At a rally in Tel Aviv, they urged the Israeli public to stand firm against far-right ministers in the government who, they fear, may try to derail the plan to end the war. Also coming up. The party of populist EU critic Andrej Babiš wins the Czech parliamentary election with more than a third of the vote, but it will need coalition partners to form a government. It promises higher wages and pensions and less support for Ukraine.
One of the 200 France 24 correspondents around the world.
back, or welcome if you're just joining us. You're watching Daybreak on France 24. Our headlines early this Sunday. Israeli strikes kill dozens in Gaza despite Donald Trump calling to stop the bombing amid progress on a peace deal. Hamas said it was ready to release the remaining hostages, and Israeli negotiators are headed to Cairo for indirect talks to finalize the details. We'll get the latest from our correspondent, Nova Tarnopolsky. Donald Trump authorizes the deployment of 300 National Guard troops to Chicago. It comes as tension has flared in the city, with immigration authorities facing off with protesters. Meanwhile, a similar move to deploy troops to Portland was blocked by a federal judge. And riot police in the country of Georgia used water cannons and tear gas to drive opposition protesters away from the presidential palace. The pro-EU opposition has been demonstrating since October, when the Georgian Dream Party claimed victory in elections that the opposition says were stolen.
This is Asia Now.
It's 2 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 11:30 in New Delhi, and 1 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Paul Soon. At this hour, U.S. President Donald Trump is urging Hamas to move quickly and seal a deal with Israel that could end 2 years of war in Gaza. He says once Hamas agrees, a ceasefire and prisoner exchange will begin immediately. Syrians will head to the polls today to elect some seats in parliament, a first since the ouster of former President Bashar al-Assad. But not everyone is convinced that this will be a fully democratic exercise. Southern China is bracing for Typhoon Matmore. Flights are cancelled and businesses closed as authorities issue the highest alert for strong winds and heavy rain across Guangdong, Hainan, and Yunnan.
Headlines Australia starts October 16 on ABC TV and ABC iView. Today, Benjamin Netanyahu says he hopes to bring home all hostages in the coming days ahead of fresh ceasefire negotiations in Egypt. US President Donald Trump authorizes the National Guard to be deployed to Chicago after violent clashes between protesters and immigration agents. The death toll for a school collapse in Indonesia rises to at least 36 as crews continue evacuation efforts. And a tide of purple and maroon washes over Stadium Australia, with the Broncos and the Storm both eyeing the NRL Premiership glory. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Melissa McKay. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he hopes to announce the release of all hostages from Gaza in the coming days as Israel and Hamas prepare for further talks on a US-led peace deal. Mr. Netanyahu has sent a delegation to Egypt for Monday's negotiations to finalise what he calls technical details. In Tel Aviv, thousands of Israelis have joined rallies ramping up their calls for a peaceful end.
Africa News. The news.
Explosions and heavy gunfire in the Somali capital Mogadishu after militants attacked a major prison near the presidential palace, ending several months of relative calm. Smoke could be seen on Saturday billowing from the Godkajilakau jail, which also serves as the headquarters for the Regional Intelligence Unit. The incident came just hours after the government lifted roadblocks that had been in place across the city for years, saying security had improved. These barriers were intended to safeguard critical government sites, but many residents complained they are obstructing traffic and businesses. Al-Qaeda linked militant group Al-Shabaab, which is based in Somalia, claimed responsibility for the attack, saying it had released prisoners. There's no word yet on the number of casualties.
Tensions are flaring over the Nile River
as Egypt accuses Ethiopia of reckless and irresponsible management of its new mega dam, blaming it for exacerbating devastating floods in Sudan. In a statement on Friday, Egypt's water ministry said Ethiopia's unilateral operation of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam violates international law. Cairo claims these actions lack transparency and pose a direct threat to the lives and security of people downstream. The dispute centers on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, which Ethiopia officially inaugurated on September 9th after 14 years of construction. The $5 billion dam is Africa's largest hydroelectric facility with a massive capacity to hold 74 billion cubic meters of water. Egypt has now activated emergency measures, warning its own northern villages to evacuate riverbanks. Cairo asserts its right under international law to defend its water security as the long-standing regional dispute enters a new volatile phase. Protesters gathered outside the Israeli embassy in South Africa on Friday, demanding the release of South African activists and others who were detained by Israeli forces from the Gaza flotilla. In Pretoria, demonstrators holding pro-Palestinian signs and flags urged
individuals who have sacrificed themselves as volunteers to help to contribute, who have been abducted. What we are saying is that it's not just an abduction of individuals, but it's a perpetration of a crime committed against humanity. Purely because of our understanding is that the Israel Defense Force has stopped the process to deliver medication to many people who deserve and require.
Among those detained in the 500-person flotilla include Nelson Mandela's grandson, Nkosi Zwelivelile Mandla Mandela.
I feel like our country has gone through too much of this type of oppression that we can't be stood here fighting for our people. You know, there are mainly about 3 countries in this world where we have faced apartheid, and their apartheid now seems to be succeeding all the other ones that we've seen before.
For now, protests continue to grow across the world as international pressure mounts on Israel to release the participants of the flotilla, which included citizens from 44 nations.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.